Hello students and welcome to another session of English language with Rita Oshan from Chalukya Academy. Today our topic is narrative writing. Narrative writing is often synonymous with a story. Narratives entertain and engage the reader in an imaginative experience. Narrative writing can be in many forms like autobiographies, biographies, epics, folk tales, parables, fables, science fiction, tales, legends, novels, memoirs, and also plays. We all have experiences lodged in our memories which are worthy of sharing with readers. Narrative essays are told from a defined point of view, often the author's. So, feeling as well as specific and often sensory details are provided to get the reader involved in the elements and sequence of the story. Since a narrative relies on personal experience, it often is in the form of a story. It is usually filled with details that are carefully selected to explain, support, or embellish the story. Embellish meaning decorate. Authors use strategies like flashback, foreshadowing, dialogue, suspense to keep the readers glued on. Now, narrative stories need a plot which includes introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and finally resolution. The plot structure is a thread of events that occur in a story. A conflict is the problem or tension which the characters have to face. Characterization means the people in the story who drive the plot. We must remember that we should not have more than 3 characters in a play so that we can do justice to them. Then comes the setting or the location of the events in time and place, followed by theme which the readers are intended to understand. Then comes the point of view. The common point of view in fiction is the omniscient narrator who is present everywhere and knows everything that goes on with the characters. So he is the one who keeps us abreast with the feelings of the hero and the heroine. Then comes sequencing. Sequencing means arranging the story chronologically. Many times authors use the technique of flashback, wherein they go in flashback and then they speak about their past. But if you use the technique of flashback too often in a story, the readers can get confused, for they have to go back and forth and search for what had happened earlier. Then comes the transition. Transition means moving from one stage to the other or one sequence to the other using linkers so that we can connect the 2 paragraphs. Now let us look at the story arc. The story begins with the exposition, which means the background information about the protagonist in his normal life. This is followed by the conflict. Something happens that creates a problem for the protagonist. Then comes the rising action, where the sequence of events that happen as a result of the conflict, these usually are more intense over time. We now reach the climax, which is the most exciting part of the story. You can call it the turning point of the story too, which is followed by falling action, the events that follow after the climax. Finally, we come to the resolution, where all the loose ends of the story are tied up and you get a peek at how the things have changed. Let us now discuss how to begin a story. You can begin a story in such a way as to catch the reader's attention, for which we have to make the opening dramatic. We have to make the reader want to read on and take the reader straight into the story. How to start a story? You can start a story by describing the setting, that is, where the story is taking place, or describing a character. Describe the main person in the story. Remember, how you describe them must have an impact on the story. For example, if we say Jim was an unlucky boy, Jim being unlucky must have an impact on the storyline. Like Jim loses his wallet, Jim fails in his business, Jim cannot get anything right, etc. We can also begin with action, where we take the reader straight into the excitement where the characters are doing something. We can also begin our story with the dialogue where the characters are speaking to each other. For example, nag, nag, nag. That is what you know how to do. I am fed up of you. And then continue the story. Now here are a few short story openings. Get away, get away, get out of here. She came at us swinging something. It struck the side of the shed. There was a metallic sound and then her screaming again, out of here, I'll kill. Now this tells us that the lady is very angry. She is charging at the children, literally driving them away. The second opening, the door burst open. Leaves swirled around the passage. Distant screams could be heard as the misty night grew darker and colder. This could be a beginning for a horror story in a haunted place. The sun went down over the tall towers that loomed over the smoke-filled city. New York was a pretty impressive place, a place that once you'd been, you didn't want to leave. Description of a place. Ugly. That's how you describe Billy Bobbins. Ugly. With his large spotty nose, crooked teeth and lazy eye, he wasn't exactly a model. But nevertheless, Lucinda still fancied him rotten. So, description of a person. Now we come to the middle of the story. The middle of the story must keep the reader's attention that you caught with the beginning. Keep the action going, develop the characters and storyline. Remember that you need to start a new paragraph when something changes. The middle of the story should drive the plot in an interesting manner as to keep the readers hooked on. Use linkers, build up the tension, try to build up the conflict, try to make it as interesting as possible. How do we start a new paragraph in a story? You can start a new paragraph by changing the setting. The action in the story happens in another place. You can also change a paragraph by changing the time. The story moves on to another time, that day or the next day, etc. Change of person. A new character is introduced. They may say something or just be described. Or by the change of event, something new happens in the plot which is very interesting and makes the reader want to read more and more of it. Now we come to how to end a story. The conclusion of a story is really important. You don't want to disappoint the reader by giving them a weak ending. It can spoil the whole thing. You need to draw all the threads of the story together. Do justice to each and every character. Resolve any conflict within the story. Complete the telling of the events. Now remember, while ending a story, please do not attempt to end your story on a cliffhanger. It is perfectly alright to end your story in a cliffhanger if you're writing a series or something that is to be continued, or something that is to be left to the reader's imagination. While attempting your paper, please do not end your story on a cliffhanger, as the examiner might feel that you were short of time and hence could not complete your story. Most important things to remember while attempting narrative writing is kindly stick to the word limit and read the question very carefully and underline the key points of the question so that you can answer the question properly. You can get 3 types of questions in your narrative writing. Either begin the story with the given line, or include the given line anywhere in the story, or end the story with the line given. So you have to be very careful while reading the question and start your story as per the instructions given in the paper. Remember, the more you practice, the more perfect you will become. So start practicing your narrative writing now. I am sure with the help of these pointers, you will be able to write a good story. Another very important thing to remember is that you are supposed to write an original story. You cannot reproduce a story that you have heard or read somewhere. You can probably take a few tips from here and there. You can use characters from a particular story and the setting from another story and club them together, changing their names, but you cannot reproduce a story which you have heard or read. It has to be either a personal experience or an imagination. So I am sure, children, with practice you will do wonders. I'll be soon back with another video dealing with another topic from your curriculum. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.